Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of PTCGO, and this time we're taking a look at Glalie-EX. Like I mentioned in the previous Mega Mewtwo deck, that Glalie will be next, and this one isn't the Mega. Making the Mega one a little later, but this one is the Glalie-EX base, which I figured had a better outcome than the Mega. Being the Mega needed to have 100 damage on it to do massive damage, and Glalie-EX can work around it just a little bit to help keep a constant 170-150 damage output. So we'll look at Glalie here. Glalie-EX 170 water type Pokemon. Has a nice looking full art here. He's looking at you and he's got like some kind of whirlpool thing going on in the background. And the first move is Ice Breath. For 1 water energy, you flip a coin. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. It is kind of nice because if you go second, like I always do, Ice Breath might be a nice little thing to stall your opponent to paralyze them. That way you can buy yourself a turn or buy yourself a non-damage next turn. So Ice Breath can help you out in some matchups. However, I always get tails, so it doesn't help me out too much. It does come clutch though. Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, it does come clutch, but I always get tails, so I don't always benefit from it. However, if you get heads a lot, then that's good for you. Me, I always get tails, so but it is a nice little backup attack. But we'll look at the main attack here. For 1 water energy and a double colorless, we do instant freeze. It does 50 base. It's not the most intimidating attack, but if you have the same number of cards in your hand as your opponent, the attack does 100 more damage. So essentially 150 with Muscle Band 170, and 170 knocks out a lot of things, a lot of EXs, and a lot of the break Pokemon as well that are coming out and being played as well. And look at that, Glalie even knocks himself out with it. So 170 is a good number. However, there are some EXs that will live the 170 damage output, so you would sometimes need to play Giovanni's Scheme. We'll talk about that a little later. We also run a 2-2 line of Octillery, and Octillery looks like he's some kind of canal or river or something like that. Either way, he's a 90 base, 90 HP water type Pokemon, and he's got an ability called Abyssal Hand. Once during your turn before you attack, you may draw cards until you have 5 in your hand. So it's pretty nice. It has a little draw power, engine to our own deck, as well as keeping our hand in a constant 5 range. That way, just in case our opponent has 5 or maybe even 3, we can Abyssal Hand to 5 and discard 2 cards to get to the 3. We have things to work with Glalie-EX as much as possible. We also run 2 Shamans. This is just to help keep the nice line going, a consistent line going. Just in case we have a dead hand, we can use Shaman to draw a little better of a hand here. That's pretty much all it's for. It's essentially, if you have a bad hand, you can just hopefully get Shaman out and get like a little more a flow going. We also have 2 Battle Compresses. This is just to discard supporters into our discard pile and use Versus Seeker later on in the matchups to get what we need. We have 1 Escape Rope. This is a little tech against Reggie-Ice. If Reggie-Ice is in the active spot, and he uses Resistant Blizzard, we can use something like Switch, Escape Rope, Lysander, and then capture out the Reggie-Ice and knock it out. Or we can, that's essentially what it's for. It's not for anything particular besides a little Reggie-Ice counter. We also have 3 red cards. This is to save our judges. We can red card, make our opponent get 4 cards in their hand, or we can disrupt them. Say for instance they have a large hand card, and we don't want them to have too many cards in their hand. We can red card them back, and they can draw 4. We can Abyssal afterwards, and then we can discard just 1 card, and we have 4/4, and we can use Instant Freeze. We have 1 Switch. This is just for status conditions, things like sleep or maybe poison or even paralyzation. We can use Switch for. We have 4 trainers mails. This is just for every kind of trainer we need. There's a lot of trainers in here, so odds are we'll be drawing at least 1 kind of trainer from it. We also have 4 Ultra Balls. Know what you guys are saying, why not Dive Balls? 4 Ultra Balls helps us discard, so it also lets us work with our hand here. Obviously, if you can only if say for instance you have 5 cards and your opponent has 3, you can Ultra Ball and get 2, and then discard 2, and then just get a Pokemon, keep it in your hand, and then use Instant Freeze to help keep the same hand card size. And then we have 3 battle reporters. This is actually a nice little card because battle reporter doesn't see much play. However, it does kind of work with this deck because, say for instance, our opponent has a really large hand and we need to get things going as well. We can also battle reporter for the same number of cards in their hand, and then we can later on red card them or something. But battle reporter helps us yet again reach the same hand card size. We have 2 Giovannis because originally this deck was supposed to feature a Polion. And I did have a couple matches with it, and it did work slightly. However, it was more often than not clunky. So I had to take him out to make a smoother, make it more of a flow kind of deck. Even though Polion did help out in some matchups, it was just made it overall just too clunky to use it. So instead, I incorporated Giovanni's scheme. And Giovanni's scheme, what we're looking at here is to use the secondary effect. During this turn, your opponent's Pokemon do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, which is nice. It helps us reach the 180 range. So that's the whole key of Giovanni here, is to reach the 180 range for Glalie-EX's Instant Freeze. So that way with a Muscle Band and Giovanni, he does about 190, which knocks out Tyrantrum EX and all other base EX Pokemon except for Wailord EX. We also have 1 Hex Maniac here. This is for power and his intimidating main. Nothing really else we need to worry about. Giratina is not safe from us since we're not a Mega. So Hex Maniac is just for the power matchup. We also have 3 Judges, which is arguably one of the best cards in this deck because it instantly gives us a 4/4 hand size, and we can just use Instant Freeze off the bat to do 170. We also have 1 Lysander, which is nice to capture out imposing threats. And then we have 4 Sycamores because Sycamores. We have 1 Zero Sick. This is just in case our opponent head ringers us, or just in case our opponent has some kind of special energy that we need to slow them down just a little bit, and we can use Zero Sick. We also have 2 Faded Towns. This is for the Mega matchup. A Giovanni plus Muscle Band and the Instant Freeze with a Faded Town will knock out a Mega Mewtwo Y since it has 210 and also a Mega Manectric. We also have 4 Muscle Bands just to increase the damage output since we have 4 Glalie-EXs. Of course, we won't use all of them, but the more Muscle Bands we have, the more odds of drawing them would be. We also have 4 Double Colors and 6 Water Energies. And that's pretty much about it. This deck is all about getting the same hand size, which makes it a luck-based deck. It's a fun deck, and it's just a little shy of being competitive. The only reason why is because the deck requires a bit of luck, and it also is on your opponent's defense. If your opponent knows the deck, obviously he's gonna play the hand, his deck size or like his hand size to a small amount, something that's hard to reach, something like 1 or 0. That way you cannot use Instant Freeze because Instant Freeze for 50 is not very intimidating. It has no secondary effect. Like if it was Toad, then you also stop your item cards, which is a bummer. But it's just base 50, which isn't a very strong attack once you look at it its base form. But other than that, if you can get it going, then it's a very strong deck. It knocks out a lot of Pokemon, and it comes out very fast. It takes about 2 turns. First turn to attach Water Energy, and the second turn to attach to Double Colorless. But like I said, if your opponent knows how it works, then they're gonna play their hand size to a very weird number. Say for instance like 8 or 1 or something really weird to have their hand size at, which makes it hard. You can keep getting it, but eventually it's gonna be hard to constantly keep getting the same hand size, which is the problem. It's gonna be hard to constantly reach the same hand size as your opponent. The other thing the deck falls a little behind in the meta is it runs quite a bit of supporters. So obviously to get essentially the best hand, it's gonna be a little difficult because say for instance you do 150 against a 170 HP Pokemon, but your hand size is not the same. So what happens is you need to play Giovanni's, but you also need to play Judge. So if these cards were in item form, then it'll be a little stronger. But since they're in supporter form and you can only play 1, you have to kind of make gut decisions on what you think is the best. So it involves a little luck. That's what I'm talking about, luck based. It involves a little luck to get the right hand cards. But don't worry, once you play this deck more often, you get hang of it. I'm still getting the hang of it too. I'm not gonna lie, there are times where I could do some amazing plays, but I don't because I don't think too into it. I make a misplay and I draw something that I would have amazingly been useful in that matchup. But that's pretty much how the deck goes. You just gotta really think about it, and you gotta slow down, even though things are happening kind of fast. You gotta slow down just in your head, just to think on what's the best course of action. It is pretty gut instinct, so it's I guess it'll be a good deck to help build up your trainer instincts. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the battle. So we are going against Superstar Liam, who's running a Dark and Dragon Psychic colorless deck, which it can only be a couple things. We get tails on, well, we go for heads, but we get tails, which makes us lose. The reason why is because of the previous games I played like 7 or 8 and I got tails straight, so I figured one time I'd get heads. I don't get heads, I just get another tails. So we go second, which isn't the worst, but it isn't the best either. Obviously, if we start off with Glalie-EX, we are able to paralyze our opponent. However, we do not start off with Glalie, we start off with Remoraid, which is not the ideal starter. We also get a double colorless, which is not ideal energy attachment we want either, but also our supporters aren't the greatest either for first hand draws. So nothing too bright here, but our opponent does get a Ghastly out with a level ball, and so obviously this is a Noivern Ghastly deck. The only question here is if he runs Noivern Break. I do get a Transmail and I get a Sycamore off of it, which is pretty good. I'm gonna go and attach my double colorless energy to my Remoraid, and I'm gonna use the attack, his first attack, I think it's something River, where he's able to switch the bench, which is nice because I'll discard the energy, so it might be useful later on. I get a fresh hand, and I'm gonna go and Ultra Ball away the Battle Compressor and the Judge, and get out a Glalie-EX and put him down and attach the Muscle Band, so no head ringers here. And I'd also play down Shaman to draw another, about 4 cards, and get another Transmail, but I don't get anything off that Transmail. I also get another Glalie-EX, but I decided not to bench it because I don't want all my Glalies getting damaged off of Noivern's attack. So I just go and use Remoraid's attack to switch to my Glalie being the active. My opponent does another level ball, obviously getting a lot of Haunter. He's going to play it down. Haunter has a really neat ability where it confuses both active Pokemon. My opponent bypasses this by evolving into Noivern, so he removes all previous static conditions. And he's actually going to go ahead and do Boom Burst, which is, so far my opponent has a really decent start off. The only thing, he's got Tails on Birch, which will slow him down just a little bit there. So we did 30 to the entire bench, devastating attack. So obviously Gengar can sweep in now, knock out all my Pokemon. Unfortunately, Gengar has to attack the active, so it'll be too strong if he can hit everybody for 30 and knock out everybody. Let's see. So I'm deciding what to do here. I'm going to go and bench my Glalie-EX, and I'm going to get rid of my Auxiliary and my Hex Maniac and get on the Shaman to draw more cards in my hand. So I get another fresh hand of 5 here. I'll draft 5, and I get a 0-6, which is actually pretty important. Now my only bet here is deciding whether or not to touch double colorless to my active or my bench Glalie. I feel my active will be knocked out pretty soon, so I'm going to go ahead and just touch my bench, and I'm going to 0-6 the DD energy away from the Noivern, slowing him down considerably, since he needs to have either another DD or he needs to come up with another way of attacking with Noivern. And I'm going to go and use Artillery and get a Sycamore out of that, so not too bad. My opponent benches another Noibat, obviously multiple attackers here, and he's going to get another Birch with the Verse Seeker, and unfortunately my opponent gets another Tails on Birch. This is why I'm actually slowly digressing away from Birches, because I really need to draw specific cards, and Birch doesn't give me sometimes. He does attach a Psychic Energy to Gengar, and he'll probably switch since Noivern really can't do much and he already uses his attachment for the turn. He switches, and Gengar is going to use Creep Show, which is an oddly named attack. But so we're going to go and promote our Glalie-EX, and my opponent has a 4-card hand size, which we can get to, but we have options here. I kind of want to Judge, but I also want to get a Water Energy, so I kind of need to make decisions here. So I go inside. The best option here is to Sycamore. Unfortunately, I draw a little bit colorless energy, but not a Water Energy. Touch the Muscle Band to my Glalie-EX, bench Glalie-EX, and I look with Transmail, and there's a Water Energy, but I have not got it yet. So I'm gonna go attach my double colorless energy to my bench Glalie and bench another Remoraid. And I get a Water Energy, but unfortunately I'm not able to attach it, so I just have to pass my turn. Luckily this Glalie-EX is fresh, so there's no way of my opponent really knocking on this one turn. My opponent attaches a double Dragon Energy to his bench Noivern, and he attacks with Gengar, doing 10 to me plus poison and then 10 to the bench, so obviously getting some DPS going. I get another water energy, so finally my water energy is coming to play. Now I just gotta match his hand size, which is 3. So I decided to battle compress and get rid of Faded Sound, since obviously I'm not gonna use that. The Ultra Ball, since most of my Pokemon are already out, if not all. And I decided Sycamore, since I'm gonna rely on the Judge and the other cards like that too for now on. So I go ahead and use Giovanni's damage boosting effect, which doesn't really help anything, but I need to get my hand size down. And so there it is. I take out Gengar. That's why I call him Gengar-EX, but it's just regular Gengar. And Poison's gonna stack up. My opponent touches a Psychic Energy, and it's gonna Sycamore. So he needs to get some more Ghastlies and Gengars out. Unfortunately, it is the break version, so now my opponent has to match my hand size to do his attack, which is devastating. He does 170 as well, so obviously a huge hitter here, and he gets 170, knocks out Glalie-EX. So my best bet here is to promote my active Glalie, attach on the water energy, and I need to use Hex Maniac to bypass Noivern's echolocation ability. Unfortunately, I misplay here. I should have actually trained his mail to see my possible options, because now I have to get a Judge in order to match the hand size, but I made a misplay there. I really want to get Hex Maniac to bypass the echolocation ability, but I made the misplay and I get a Judge instead, and then I train his mail, and lo and behold, what was in the trainer's mail? The red card, which would have enabled me to get the red card, get the Hex Maniac, use the red card, then use my Octillery's ability, Abyssal Hand, and then use the Hex Maniac, which will get us both to 4. But I made the misplay, so now I'm going to have to rely on my luck versus his luck. And he's gotten 2 tails, so odds are he's due for a heads. So I just go ahead and Judge to get our hand sizes even, and unfortunately my opponent gets tails again, and I knock out Noivern Break. That could have been a turning point right there. If I got tails, he would have absolutely destroyed me from that on because of my misplay. My opponent evolves into Haunter, confusing both of us once again. Obviously my opponent has multiple breaks, but I don't know if he'll be able to get it out anytime soon. He's going to train his mill for Sycamore, and he's going to train his mill again for I think a Muscle Band. It didn't show. I think he failed it. So he's going to touch a Muscle Band to Noivern, and he's going to Sycamore. So I believe he's looking for the break. I'm not sure if he'll have enough energy to attach to it. My opponent touches a Dark Energy, I believe, to his Noivern, and we're going to see what happens. That's about it. So now we're confused. So now not only do we have to match the hand size, we also have to get ourselves get our own Glalie-EX away from confusion. So I'm touching Muscle Band and double colors to our opponent and to our Shaman EX. The reason why is because I want Battle Compressor into more of a hand. I do get a switch, so I'm gonna switch into Octillery, who had double colors energy from the first time, and I'm gonna switch back out. So I get rid of the confusion, and then I also red card my opponent back to a 4-size hand, and now we just gotta bypass the flip. We do, and we knock out Noivern. So aside from my misplay, we've been going pretty well, and our opponent unfortunately has super bad luck because he's gotten 4 or 5 tails in a row, which is I felt sad when I was playing, because I was like, oh, this deck would have been like it was keeping up, but the tails just got to him, and the tails is always an unfortunate thing. And then he's gonna Birch once again, get tails, and oh my god, that's just horrible. I felt really bad about it afterwards. Well, during actually, what about the tails? So he's gonna Ultra Ball away, raise 2 cards, and get out a. I'm guessing he's looking through his deck to see what cards he has left. He hasn't played too much Ghastlies, so either he has Ghastlies or maybe a little Noibat. Depends on what his line of Noivern was. So we're gonna just have to wait for this. But yes, unfortunately, my opponent has not the best of luck here. He gets a Ghastly, and he benches it, and now my opponent has a 1 card size, which is very hard to match up. But you have red card size, make him go back to a 4 hand card size. I bench Glalie-EX, and I do 170 once again to Gengar. My opponent comments how his 2 Shamans are prized, and to top it off, his Shamans are prized. Not only was he getting bad flips, he also has 2 Shaman prized. And now my opponent puts his Ghastly and evolves to Haunter. I'm just typing, I'm felt sorry because he did have some bad luck in this matchup. And he confuses both of us, and as a way of stalling, or hopefully to me damaging myself. But let's see what happens here. My opponent is probably just typing back, or maybe thinking of things. It's a cool little confusion, I guess, little birdies flying over your head. Either way, my opponent's deck has run out of steam. There isn't really much here, and it's about it. Cammy came out for a bit just to tell us that we're taking forever, and I think my opponent doesn't really have much, so he's probably gonna pass. I'm not exactly sure. He seems to be taking just a little bit of time. He attaches an energy, and he's obviously gonna do his attack, poisoning me, and I cannot retreat, which is okay since we got an escape rope in our hand. Unfortunately, I'm out of ways to actually make our hand size similar, so I have to kind of just wing it here. But luckily, Haunter's base is 70, which we do. He finally gets heads on his confusion, so he breaks confusion to do the attack on us. There's no way I can actually match that hand size, so I'm gonna have to switch back out to avoid confusion. And luckily, Haunter's has 70 HP, so I knock it out with the base. I just typed GG because it was a good game. It was a very fun game. Just my opponent had some bad luck to it. And that's about it. We knock out Haunter, and that is the game. So that's about it. I hope you guys did enjoy the battle. It was kind of a short one too. I had plenty of battles, but I figured this was the funnest one, or this one was like kind of a cool deck because not only was I using this deck, but I was also facing another deck similar, and also because it was kind of a newer deck as well. There's been a lot of talk about Gengar because he seems somewhat viable, but there's no one has figured out a great partner for him. There's Greninja, there's Noivern, and there's Gengar-EX. No one has figured out a solid partner for him. So I might make a Gengar deck pretty soon, but who knows. Hope you guys enjoyed the battle. If you guys did, please leave a like. Hopefully you guys have a great day.